and that says live. I don't know if it comes up on your screen that we're live.
Yeah, I look alive. That's me. That's you. Recognize
Yes,
you.
that's right, in Aussie
All
Shire.
right. Yeah, that's right. Don't know how the system knew that's where I was, but it just automatically put it up there.
Indeed. We were going through the sorry, I'm just doing this so I can see that we're coming up. It says live chat, yeah.
Yeah, we're live.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Paul Capaldi Show.
Ah, there we go. You finally, that's right. Okay. Got you. It's okay. It's not. I'm making sure that we were actually going live there, and we are. And you're in on the somewhere in Aussie Shire in the suburbs. So yes, welcome to the non-PC show. So we got rudely interrupted, didn't we, yesterday? So where did we get to? We got as far as Fallon and his innocent people don't confess, but you were going to go and mention a little bit about one of your favourite characters, Patrick Willis. Paddy Willis.
Yes, Mr. Yes. So just for a little recap, if you like, the purpose of going through these different items, and we'll do a few more today, was to illustrate to people, particularly those who are relatively new to the case, of some key issues that illustrate the lack of independence and the lack of integrity behind the conduct of the case and investigations of certain things. And so hence I came up with these items that I've been putting on Twitter and Facebook in recent weeks. So the one I would like now to turn to is one during Stephen's trial in February of 2007. There was a period where during that trial where Jerome Buting was trying to make the point about Teresa's cell phone being accessed right up until the 2nd of November, which was a Wednesday, keeping in mind that it was the Monday, 2 days previously, that when, according to the state, she was murdered and burned, including her mobile phone and camera and so on the Avery property. The camera and the phone found in a burn barrel near Stephen's trailer some days later, but nonetheless, the narrative was that that's when she died and when her equipment was destroyed. But the phone, there were records showing that the phone had been accessed right up until November the 2nd, and the nature of those records was such that it wasn't just a question of people ringing and getting voicemail or getting no answer. It was the nature of that access was that someone physically had to have had the phone to make that happen. And the defence brought on an expert witness from Singular Wireless, which was Teresa's phone company. So, just confirming that is that Teresa's phone had to have been accessed and opened on that Wednesday the 2nd. And then during the course of that testimony, Ken Kratz objected and wanted to be heard outside the presence of the jury, and making the assertion that the defence was changing its narrative and saying now that Teresa must have been alive on Wednesday the 2nd, 2 days after her disappearance, and that they, the prosecution, were entitled to know that was the defence's argument in advance. And Jerry Buting said, no, we're not saying that she was alive, but we are saying that her phone was accessed, which was in effect counter to the narrative that the state had already been put before the jury and was presently arguing. So amidst that little bit of banter, arguing the point, Judge Willis says to Ken Kratz, words to this effect, does the state know who accessed the voicemail? Now, that was a question that Ken Kratz didn't want to get asked, especially by the judge, because that question could simply be answered yes or no. didn't require any other answer than yes or no. Does the state know who accessed the voicemail? Well, yes. If the answer was yes, they did know. Well, then that would have been an immediate Brady violation, because they hadn't passed over that information. In fact, would have been, if you like, the unraveling of the narrative. And if they had said no, that would have been a lie. And that, the last thing that the prosecutor wants to be caught is to be caught in a lie. So with Judge Willis's question about that, so what does Ken Kratz do, as he so often does? He deflects. He makes a statement that I mentioned a moment ago, that is, if it's the defence's argument that Theresa now is still alive right up to Wednesday the 2nd of November, then they had the right to know that in advance. He doesn't answer the question. He doesn't answer, did the state know who accessed the voicemail? And we know that it was accessed. So that's been proven by way of evidence that it was accessed. The phone was accessed, opened and accessed up 2 days after she's allegedly died and the equipment destroyed. So we have this bizarre situation where, and Jerry Buting quite eloquently explains that it couldn't have been Stephen, that he wouldn't have had access to the phone. He says, and he thinks it's important, and he wants to make this point. And Judge Willis says, well, I'm failing to see the relevance of this matter at this time. Well, how bizarre is that? How could that issue, which in effect is a statement about her still being, her phone still being not destroyed 2 days after it being argued that it was destroyed, and clearly accessed by persons other than Stephen Avery, because he had no ability to access it. And then against that question of Judge Willis's, that is, does the state know who accessed the voicemail? He then says to his own question, I'm failing to see the relevance of it, which is really code for, oh God, I've asked the wrong question. How do I back out of here? Because clearly it wasn't a question that Mr. Kratz and the state wanted to be asked. So to me, that goes to the key issue about the integrity and independence of the judiciary in this case. It was a very, very relevant question. No question about that. It's a very relevant question. And all we needed to hear was yes or no from the state. But Mr. Kratz diverted from that, and Mr. Willis or Justice allowed him to divert from that and not answer the judge's question. It's probably one of the key examples of the lack of independence by Willis in this case.
Yeah. One question that has arisen recently, and thank you, Kimberly, for mentioning this one, because it is interesting that we discover through phone conversations that somebody phoned up about the van that Barb was selling. Do we know that it was definitely through Auto Trader that this person was getting in touch to see about the van was for sale? Do we know that it was definitely an Auto Trader customer via Auto Trader? But also, how would the presumably Auto Trader, as soon as they've got somebody booked in, they want that photograph straight away. Presumably, through her phone, Theresa was able to send to Auto Trader the picture of that she'd taken straight away, or would she need to download it to a computer to then send it off to Auto Trader? I think it would be interesting. You know, we know that that Steve and Barb discussed that the van being for sale, but of course it might have been for sale through other means, word of mouth. You know, somebody else knew that they'd got the van for sale. Yeah, if it was actually advertised on a website, that would create. If it was on the Auto Trader, how did a picture of the van that was being sold get onto Auto Trader?
I'm not sure. Just thinking back to, sorry, Paul, I'm just fiddling with something here to improve the sound a little. Forgive me looking down. I'm not sure back in 2007, or sorry, no,
2005,
events occurred, whether or not our phones were sophisticated enough she's using a camera to take photos. She's not using a phone. That she had the ability, technically, to, if you like, email or a photo straight to Auto Trader on the spot or home and download her card to a computer and send it that way. I'm not sure. Was that what you were getting at? Was that the essence of?
Yeah, I mean, if I seem to remember when I was doing various things around about that sort of time frame, I'm sure that the way it was done was you would have a camera that would have an SD card in it. You could take the take the SD card out and load it into your laptop, couldn't you?
Yes.
And that would be the normal way of doing it. Yeah.
That you can do that. You could also plug a cable from your camera into your USB port of your, and download the photo that way. Or some computers had a port or a multi-port that would allow you to put the card in. So I'm not sure what Teresa did, but I'm guessing that it was probably likely a cable that she could plug into the camera and download it to a computer.
Yeah, I don't know why we seem to be having an issue with your sound. It keeps fading in and out. I'm not 100% sure why.
Yeah, I can hear that when I'm from your voice. I'm just going to change. Hopefully, it won't cause me a problem. I apologise to anyone who's listening.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine why it's. Oh, what I suppose it is. It's just after 3 in the afternoon, so it'll be 7 o'clock in the morning over there on Crunch Island. Is that about right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Oh, we're getting good sound off you there. A certain Mr. Dozy has joined us.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Here's a thing, dude. Are you still in your pajamas? Can I send you a link and you can join us?
Bananas in pajamas.
He's calling it. Yeah, exactly. He's calling us Jack and Victor. Do you know who Jack and Victor are?
No, I'm thinking I should do though. Is it someone from the Big Lebowski?
No, it's from two characters from a Scottish comedy series called Still Game, about two retired blokes who were still. Yeah, I know you've been there, dude. I could see you. Are you still in your pajamas? You're going to join in for a couple of minutes. That's what I'm asking. Just answer the question, you mumping what's it? So yes, so he's in his curlers. Yes. So basically, they are this couple of guys who've known each other for a long time, and they still at times act as if they're still like youngsters, But they're these retired people that get up to all sorts of fun, and the sort of banter between them is quite good. They've got their regular routines, regular things that they go to the pub, what's it called, the Garrison pub, where Bobby Wubby serves them behind the bar. The Garrison is a little bit like the
same beer every afternoon.
Yeah, the Garrison is a little bit like the Glue Pot. If you've ever been to the Glue Pot in Galashiels,
I have.
I was saying to Grayson David's son, Jack, that the Aussie and the Canadian were here, so I had to show them a bit of the Klansman. That was it. So I had to show them a little bit of the culture of Galashiels. So I took you to the Glue Pot, but it was okay, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was good.
I can't remember who won the pool. It didn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I think probably if you don't remember, I won.
Yes, I think you probably did. Yes.
Actually, you guys did. You and your dear wife. I must admit, your wife was the better one of you two at the game. So.
Yeah. So anyway, we don't know about this. If the van has got a picture and listed in Auto Trader, then that does
Yes.
that does raise a lot of questions, doesn't it, as to how the hell did this camera that supposedly Teresa, I can't imagine Stephen Avery went, having done all this murdering and raping and slashing and punching and cutting of hair. Remember, she got a haircut as well. Remember, after he did that, he thought, I know what I should do. I should load up this photo, using my computer and send it to Auto Trader. I somehow I can't see that being the case. Can you?
No, not at all. It's funny, we kind of try to, don't you find this? We try to make all these explanations around certain behaviors and certain actions and almost unwittingly create a sense of truth about them just because the story that's told is so unbelievable that we try to make it believable just to be independent, forgetting that none of this makes sense because it didn't happen, or certainly didn't happen in the way that the state described it to happen. So, it's if there was such a photo, if it was such the case that Teresa had sent, either on that day or at some time on that day, a photo to Auto Trader, well, then that would the sending of that would either be on their computer, that is Auto Trader's, or on Teresa's computer, because it would be a sent file. But I don't know if you know, I don't recall. I'm much wiser people than me will know this, whether there was any examination done of Teresa's computer at all post her passing, to see what records, if any, had happened on her computer on that day, or the day before or the day after. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yes, I don't think they did much, as you were saying just a few moments ago. I don't think they did much investigation of any of her of her phone to find out who had accessed her voicemails. I mean, it's the person that deleted it is one of two, as far as I can see. It's either Ryan Hilligus or Mike Holbach.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's no doubt that voicemails were deleted, and the question then becomes, well, why would you do that? Why would you delete voicemails? That is highly irregular, and they would have known that they shouldn't have been doing such a thing unless they were, in my view, they were under instructions or under an intent to deceive, put it that way. That's the only way I could possibly explain that. But did the state know who accessed the voicemails? Answer: yes. And then for Mr. Kratz to go on and explain, well, Judge, as he always called him, well, Judge, it's something we can still do if you want us to. Really? Something you should have already done. You've had this matter for, at this point, 15 months, and you haven't investigated this matter? And the reason you haven't investigated it is you don't want to know the answer, or you don't want the answer being known, put it that way. Yeah.
I mean, as you quite rightly pointed out, when Kratz was asked that direct question from the judge, the simple answer, as you say, was either yes or no. Either yes, they do know who deleted, or no, they didn't. And of course, if obviously the state do know, and he replies with a lie, even he realizes that he's got to be careful there, But his usual, I mean, as I've discovered, if you ask him a question, he'll come back with something completely, he won't answer that question. He'll come back with often a question of his own, which is not particularly related to what the one you've just asked, but he'll always look
deflect.
That's right. Yes, to turn it around, and I don't quite see how he got this. If they're trying to say that Teresa was still alive on the Tuesday, well, we don't even know if she's if we know she's disappeared. I only ever use the word disappeared because that's all we know is that she was there up until sometime on the Monday on Halloween, What happened to her after that? We just don't know. This is why
No.
we have to. I know that the attorneys, like Sir Steve Drisden, apparently he gets annoyed when people refer to the fact that she might still be alive, and you've got even Kathleen Zellner saying she met her demise probably at somewhere along Cuss Road.
Yes. You'd have to say that the likelihood that that's the case is extremely high
because of all the blood
behaviour of the dogs.
Yeah,
and,
the blood
of the behaviour. The behaviour of the dogs is very telling. So they're not corrupted, if I can put it that way.
True.
Why did they head over to Cuss Road if that wasn't a relevant sort of location for what's going on here? So
yes, are they given something of Teresa's and then that they sort of follow that scent?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So there's the scent dogs and cadaver dogs, or the cadaver dogs are trained to look for the scent of a deceased person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the scent dogs they're following a scent that they're now familiar with because of some object that they've been given that belongs to Teresa.
Yes, so, because in Making a Murder too, you've got Kathleen Zellner saying about the dogs hit on a certain area, around about the sort of the end of Cuss Road, didn't they? Just off there, where the car might have been parked for a while before being moved.
It'd be easy to park there. You've been there, when you get to the very end of Cuss Road and the cul-de-sac. There's a little dirt road that runs down into the quarry that runs through an avenue of trees. And when you're at the very end of Cuss Road, you can't, and into that corner there, you can't really see back up the road towards where there are houses along the road. It's very isolated once you're there. So it's quite possible that something happened there.
Indeed.
So I thought I might move on to another item.
Yes, please.
This is really just a fundamental issue, and that was the issue associated with conflict of interest. When the alleged murder happened in Manitowoc County, allegedly on the Avery salvage yard, or somewhere thereabouts, which is in Manitowoc County, And when Stephen was arrested, I think it was the 7th of November or somewhere around there. Maybe it was a day or two later, I forget now. But they made a decision that this should be a matter handled by a different sheriff's department. So the neighbouring Calumet County took over lead investigation of the matter, and that was a matter that Sheriff Jerry Pargle was responsible for. And equally, Ken Kratz was appointed special prosecutor for the matter from being the district attorney from Calumet. That said, the actual auspices for the matter were still under the Manitowoc court system. So Judge Willis was from Manitowoc, and it was a Manitowoc court matter just being held over in Chilton, in Calumet. But the investigation of the crime was done by the Calumet Sheriff's Office. So, with that background, it was decided that, and quite properly, there was a total conflict of interest for any Manitowoc personnel to be, due to the fact that there was the civil suit on foot at the time involving Manitowoc sheriffs and Manitowoc district attorneys and Manitowoc former sheriffs. So they decided, no, we have to be totally independent. But of course, they were just words in the end, because the truth is that Manitowoc personnel, many of them, were intimately involved in the investigation, not just at the very beginning, but continuously, throughout the conduct of the investigation in the case, and more to the point, personnel who were subpoenaed to give evidence in the civil trial, in particular, people such as Andrew Colburn and James Link, they were directly in a conflict of interest, and they were probably the most involved in many ways of Manitowoc personnel, and were in fact turned out to be the very people involved when the magic key was found and when the magic bullet was found, and a whole host of other related matters where Manitowoc's personnel were involved. So this was just addressing a conflict of interest in words only, not in action. And
no, I like that. Yeah. Sorry.
So just in concluding that behaviour alone should have caused a mistrial on that count alone. So, but this is Wisconsin, so that didn't happen.
Yeah, I didn't notice the mealy-mouthed Jerry Pargle says that Manitowoc provided items of equipment when they were needed. But it was items of equipment included the crackerjack detectives, Lenk and Colburn.
Yes.
But here's what I find quite interesting. Yeah, we've got Mike Griesbach, who, along with Mark Roher, went to Madison to see Peg Leitzelager to present their report on the wrongful conviction. And do you know who the judge was that was presiding over the $36 million civil suit?
No, I don't think I do. Who was that?
William Griesbach, Mike Griesbach's brother, who is a judge in Wisconsin. Yeah, and apparently he was the one that told Mike, his brother, to just stay way out of it. Don't have anything to do with this. Yeah.
It's so incestuous, isn't it? It's weird how all that, jobs for the boys, and let's play in the same rock and roll band and all that jazz. I mean, it's weird to me, just very weird. So
yeah. I mean, the fact that Calumet County, were asked to babysit, to chaperone these crackerjack detectives. They had to bring them in because Calumet doesn't have any officers as good at finding evidence as Lenk and Colburn. But the fact that they're babysitting them.
I know. I mean, seriously. I mean, I've been inside Stephen's trailer.
Yes.
I think you have too.
No.
It's
not inside. No.
Okay. So it's tiny. That bedroom is tiny, and that all those searches, and there's this famous key sitting there for all the world to see that Andy Colburn had obviously shaken and done all sorts of gyrations with, and all the contents miraculously end up exactly in the same spot they were before he did that. There's no doubt that key was planted. It was planted just by the obvious way in which it was found. Plus, it's clearly not Teresa's main key to her car because, one, it looks so new and shiny. I mean, they might have switched over the little lanyard thing to make it look like the old lanyard was on the new key. They didn't have the new key, but they found the old one. Didn't have any of Teresa's DNA on it, right? And the reason that probably is either they wiped it off or it was barely touched, but it probably would have had someone's DNA on it. And the fact that it only allegedly had Stephen's DNA tells you of itself that wasn't the original key.
Yeah.
And I doubt whether Stephen drove all the way back to St. John, 40 miles away to Teresa's place to pick up the spare key to plant next to his nightstand in his cupboard in his bedroom. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. In that in that photograph that they do of the key under certain lights that show up stuff, there were clearly those like yellow greenish little spots which were most likely bleach. And of course, had it been Stephen Avery that had cleaned the key in order to remove all that DNA, he would have known, if he's that smart, he would have known to not get his own DNA on that pristine, clean key. But clearly what they wanted to do was to make sure that only Steve's and DNA either. I've always suspected the slippers, but apparently the toothbrush is missing. So it was one of those that was used to apply the DNA. But yeah, I mean, for me, the reason they cleaned the key first with bleach was to make sure that it was Stephen's and only Stephen's DNA. There was no confusion about this, that it was Stephen's DNA that came back.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about that is, if you think about it for a moment, if you're a murderer and you've killed somebody on your property and you've hidden their car on your property, are you going to keep the key, right? Are you going to keep the key? What's the purpose of keeping the key? You're going to throw it away, aren't you? If you really do have it, you're not going to just leave it in your bedroom. That's for sure.
Yeah. One thing you're not going to do, you're not going to crush the car, because to crush a car takes actually quite a lot of work. You've got to remove quite a lot of you've got to remove all the liquids, the oils and the water, etc. You've got to remove a lot of the sort of big items. You can't put a car with an engine in a crusher.
Yeah,
you are just crushing the chassis.
The shell.
But what of course they could easily do is to have buried it somewhere, or they could have just driven it somewhere and driven it into an amount of water somewhere where nobody would ever know it was there.
Yeah.
But to just,
and why would it be parked yeah, and in the opposite direction of all the other cars, right? Where the driver's door is actually on the inner side.
You've got to get out.
The least likely way to get out.
Yeah.
Getting out. I mean, none of that makes any sense at all. None. Zero. But the point, we got to that point because we were discussing the issue of independence and the conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And the conflict of interest declaration was in words only. It didn't happen at all in actual behaviour.
Yeah.
And then we find out the bizarre story of the Manitowoc coroner, who did have no conflict, but that they precluded her from her lawful duty by saying she shouldn't go out there because no Manitowoc people should be there, right? So, yeah, I mean, I laugh because this is an extremely serious thing, but I laugh because it's just beggars belief how this story gets pieced together. So, I thought I would go on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say I like how Jerry Buting puts it in his book when he refers to the fact that they finally found somebody who they could exclude from the case, somebody that got nothing at all to do with it. But if you have been in Stephen's bedroom, then you must have experienced that lack of gravity just in that one portion of the caravan. Did you experience that weightlessness? Where things can fall and they can just rotate round and land anywhere.
Yeah, and there was also a pretty spooky feeling in there. I'm sure there was aliens around somewhere as well. So I felt all of that, and it's. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to trivialize a serious matter, but the story is just so fanciful that it's just beggars belief. So
maybe you could answer this question for me, because as I say, it was Lenk and Colburn were the two crackerjack detectives. I believe it was I know for a fact it was Lenk that actually trained Colburn, did part of the training of Andy Colburn in being an evidence technician. So I'm just wondering whereabouts in the evidence technician manual does it say you go into a bedroom of somebody who you've suspected of having murdered somewhere and try and trash bits of furniture? According to Andy Coleman, he was rough with it. Why is there something in the manual that says that you've got to be rough with it? In other words, try and get it to confess, to reveal some secret all of a sudden?
Yeah, maybe. It's all about good furniture, bad furniture. Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
That's some furniture you just have to be rough with because they won't play game. right?
But
So,
the idea that he was able to twist it, that again is rather interesting, because wood is a solid object, and yet he was able to twist it. So how do you twist wooden nails? I'm, it must have been some sort of strange force in there that caused things to distort and bend, like Uri Geller with his spoon,
I think that Uri could have been there too, Paul.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, he was seen down at the Cenex service station in Mishikot a few hours earlier, Uri, that is. So he could well have been up there in that trailer. So.
Yeah. I like that filling station at the Cenex one. Eunice was really impressed. And do you know why?
they sold beer.
They got a big 2-liter bottle of Southern Comfort for about $20.
All right.
And she
Right.
couldn't stop talking about it for the rest of the weekend. But oh dear. No, like you said, this is a serious matter. Sorry, just one point. It's a serious matter. But do you find when you're explaining to somebody who doesn't know much about the case, and you're explaining it to them, and you actually get, to spend maybe a couple of minutes to go through it, it sounds like you're explaining some sort of comedy to them.
I know. It's really like if someone doesn't know hardly anything about the case or anything, and they hear that you're involved, like I am and you are.
Yep.
They say, "Oh, tell me more about it." My first reaction is, "I hope you've got some time," because it takes a long time to kind of set the scene, and then people say, "Is this a true story or is it just a piece of drama?" No, it's a real story, and it is incredulous in that sense. So, and it's still playing out to this day.
I mean, for me, if somebody hasn't got much time, I say to them, this guy, 1985, gets arrested for attacking a woman on the beach, sentenced to 32 years. After 18 years, they discover it wasn't him. He gets let out.
Yep.
2 years later, he is suing them for 36 million, and guess what? He gets arrested again.
Yeah.
and for me, I don't know if it's so much the money that the 36 million was going to be a problem, because these people named in the civil suit, they have to actually give details of their worth, as it were, haven't they? What the house is worth, what the cars are worth, what they've got in the bank, what they're they've got to provide all these details. So it's as much that sort of embarrassment as it is the fact that for the rest of history there would have been a bill called the Avery Bill.
Correct. Yeah.
How embarrassing would that have been?
And the state would have, the county and or the state would have eventually been the main payer of that suit. Because the individual person's names wouldn't have had the ability to pay it in full.
Yep.
That meant Manitowoc as a county and they afforded either. Therefore, give us some power to make each other.
Yeah, we're just starting to lose you. I'm going to say cheerio because I've got to head out now anyway and do another lesson. Unfortunately, I've got work, although this has been quite an enjoyable day for me, because earlier I got to interview Derek Edmond, and now I've got you back again, and I'm just looking forward to who I'm going to be chatting to tonight.
Oh, who's that?
I don't know, but I'm saying I'm going to have to make a whole day of it, aren't I? Work gets in the way, but I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to do something desperate, like get Eric Cozy to join me.
Oh, yeah, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel when you do that.
Yeah, but he went. Sorry, I was going to say he went all the way to San Jose, right?
Yeah.
But he never took his ship. He never went in his ship, and it's just up the coast. He drove there. I mean, why not? Why not just take the guppy and be done with it? You know.
Hey, next time we speak, I'll
Yeah.
talk to you about one of my unfavourite topics of Mr. Kitchinian and Michael O'Kelly.
Oh,
and
yes.
Their treatment of Brendan. So,
Yep.
Let's have that on the list next time.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and even to the dude for showing up for a few minutes. Thank you, Mark. And yes, we will, now that we've got this this great StreamYards up and running, look forward to another chat very shortly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
There we go.
I've got one of those. A very nice friend of me from Australia gave me one.
Yeah, generous guy, that fella.
Ah, yeah. Catch you later, mate.
All right, mate.
Yeah.
What's that, mate?
Sorry? I'm saying catch you later.
I think we're talking over the top of each other.
Probably.
Yeah, all best. Take care.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye-bye. Let's do that.
Bye.